Hi everybody, this is Angie from Tourangie.com, and today I am leaving Pocahontas. As you can tell, you could go straight right there or to the left and that would take you to Bramwell, and we're going this route back through Wolf, Nemours, Yards, West Virginia area. We're also going to go up Falls Mills Dam and Loop Road. I will I will have to edit a little bit. The video had a little bit of an issue on the Falls Mills Dam area, so there was a little bit of the road missing from the actual video. But today I'm just going to read a couple articles and then maybe go over some Falls Mills Dam information. One of the articles is, they're both from Bluefield Daily Telegraph in the 1980s. One was The Emergence of Coal, and it's about more of Jordan Nelson finding the coal seam here in Pocahontas. And then the other article is also from Bluefield Daily Telegraph, and it's involving talking about the immigrants that came to the area. The emergence of coal. The development of Bluefield and Pocahontas, Virginia in the late 19th century is due largely to the discovery by one important individual. Jordan Nelson found a seam of coal in a hill on his property in Tazewell County. From that hole in the hill, located at the back of his blacksmith shop, Nelson sold coal for a penny a bushel to the locals to heat their homes. The mountain men toted the coal home on the backs of their mule. Nelson's money for coal exchange evolved into the original Pocahontas mine of the Pocahontas Fuel Company. His tiny hole on the hill was directly responsible for the western expansion of the Norfolk and Western, the building of the branch up New River, which eventually became the main line to Ohio. Nelson's path to his eventual discovery, which certainly influenced the growth patterns and urban development of not only two towns but the entire area, is curious, and the grist of which legends are made. Until shortly after the Civil War, Nelson lived in Boone County, working as a farmer, believing that West Virginia had become too crowded. He traded his land for a tract of land in southwest Virginia, now known as Tazewell County. His involvement in the Civil War is a little bit unclear. One account has Nelson serving as a Confederate Army as an informant. Another report says he served as a foot soldier, but on which side it was unclear. After the war, Nelson settled in Tazewell County. Rumor has it that Nelson's property was so primitive back then he had to cut and chop his way to his tract of land. Settling in what became Pocahontas, Virginia, Nelson opened a blacksmith shop. It was here that he began to use the coal he found on his land and later sold to his neighbors. Curiously, Nelson did not keep his property long after the discovery and never found a clear way of investing into the coal industry. If he had, Nelson would have become one of the wealthiest individuals. Instead, he sold his land, which included holdings as far north as Bramwell, along with 4 other landowners who wanted to see the railroad come in. It was reported that Nelson received $2 an acre for the land where Pocahontas is now, and as little as $1.50 to $1.75 an acre for the remainder of his property. All told, Nelson received $30,000 in gold for his acreage. Also, here in this article it says that his life was filled with tragedy and sorrow. His 2 sons died. One was shot to death while making night rounds as a coal company security guard, and also his wife passed away. But as for the $30,000 in gold, Nelson had placed his entire life savings except $3,000 in the safe of the Pocahontas drugstore that also doubled as a bank. The thieves made off with the entire amount, It was rumored that nothing else except Nelson's gold was taken from the safe and that the pharmacist left town a few days after the incident. Nevertheless, despite the pharmacist's apparently obvious behavior, the theft was never solved and the majority of Nelson's fortune was gone forever. In 1884, Nelson pulled up roots and headed back to Boone County. He lived a rather long life but died in 1922 at the age of 93 in Bluefield, and he's buried at the Walnut Grove Cemetery in Bluefield. So that was an interesting little article I found with the Bluefield Daily Telegraph. So right now we're about to the road where we would take a right to go to Falls Mills Dam. So I'll be taking a right up here. We're going to talk about a little bit of the information I have on the dam. So yes, we'll be taking a right up here on Route 643. It goes around the dam, and then we're going to travel back around Loop Road. So some information on the dam. There was Falls Mills itself was named after a mill. I've mentioned that in an earlier video. There was a mill here, and that's why it was called Falls Mills. But there was a natural dam here, and then Norfolk and Western Railroad built another dam across Mud Fork Creek. So that helps to give you a little bit more information. And there is a book you can buy. It's called A Place on the River: The Early History of Falls Mills in Tazewell County. It's a pretty interesting book, and it's by what's his name, Michael Tabor. And I'm going to be talking about the Tabors here in just a second with a little bit more information that I have found. But let's talk about a little bit involving the dam itself. The dam has been used as a fishing club, and actually lately it has been up for sale because it's attached to one of the houses, making it, you could have bought it for over around $1 million. Not quite sure what has happened with that, but still, it's pretty interesting information. So let's talk about this information I found about some of the Tabors that lived up here. Okay, so up here near Falls Mills Dam, there is a cemetery called the Tabor Cemetery. And I've luckily found something online talking about it. It looks like a few people were doing some research on their ancestry, and that's how I came across this. So on Route 643, which we're about to turn up here to the right, going from Falls Mills Dam, Virginia, towards Mud Fork, Virginia. At the end of Falls Mills Dam, you will come to a steep curve. The cemetery is not visible from the road, and there is no place to park. However, it is less than a half mile on the right with a deep curve that will lead to a brick home with a narrow lane behind it where the cemetery leads. And the cemetery is before you get to the old Henry and Shirley Hill home place. So I thought that was pretty neat that I found that information. And since we're going to be driving right by the backside of the dam there, you'll be able to easily spot where it says there's this steep curve. But what was really interesting was I kept reading, and I found out about a little quarrel, well, actually a big quarrel that happened up here. So I'm going to read it to you. October 28th, 1887, a horrible shooting in which one man was killed instantly and another fatally wounded occurred in Falls Mills. It appeared they had gone to the residence of one Belcher to demand the release of their mule, which Belcher had in his possession. The mule had been annoying Belcher for some time by being in his fields. After repeatedly warning the Tabors, the men who the mule belonged to, that he would do so, he put the mule in his stable. On them coming after it, Belcher and his sons soon went out to meet them and became engaged in a quarrel. Oldman Belcher returned to the house to procure 2 shotguns, one of which he handed to his son, and the other he leaned up against a post. Presently, something so enraged Lee Tabor, the one killed, that he drew his shotgun to shoot. Belcher jumped behind the post, at the same time getting up his gun, which he put in a few inches of Tabor's head and fired. Young Belcher shooting the other Tabor at the same time. They came to town Saturday and employed counsel to defend them and were bailed out at a sum of $4,000 each. On January 27th, 1888, the trial of Belcher for the killing of the Tabors before Justice's Court was prolonged for nearly 2 weeks. Belcher was sent to the grand jury. May 4th of 1888, the jury trying the case, the Commonwealth against Robert and Lindo Belcher for the killing of John and Lee Tabor, were out about 2 minutes when they brought the verdict of not guilty. So I thought that was really interesting about a shooting over a mule that happened up here back in 1887. But there are several Tabors buried in that cemetery, and it's a really interesting piece of information I found. I'm not going to go into any more of it, but I was glad to find something to talk about being here at the Falls Mills Dam. So next I'm going to talk about is actually an article from the Daily Telegraph again. It's called The Immigrants. The early coalfield employees depended on foreign-born labor. I'm going to read that article since this is in the same video of just leaving Pocahontas, Virginia. The mines were really important in this area, so I figured I would read it. And also, I have a little bit of family history involved in that, as my family came from Germany through Ellis Island, and of course they worked in the mines at Kimball. Still, foreign-born employees were important to the coal mining. So I'm going to read this little article. So in 1870, there was just 17 county residents that were foreign-born. Coal operators were lucky that with the wave of immigration happening to America, many people were fleeing religious persecution or political revolution in Central Europe, and company labor agents went to Castle Garden, New York, and found hundreds of Magyars, which is now the modern-day country of Hungary, is people from the modern-day country of Hungary, because Hungary was created at the end of World War I. Anyway, they had just came through the Ellis Island immigration station. Rich customs from their heritage added to the region's culture here in Southwest Virginia. Hungarian miners had thick mustaches and smoked covered pipes with smoldering garlic on top of the tobacco, and married Hungarian women wore three-cornered handkerchiefs. Previous mining experience was a precious commodity among the many Central Europeans brought to the Pocahontas coal fields. But their strange sounding language posed problems for the Native American bosses. Successful foremen had to know how to curse fluently in at least 5 different languages and deal with their employees. Script clerks or the paymasters often had issues with the family names because some of them were long names filled with tons of consonants. So there was some slight name changes or abbreviations to some names when the paymasters were talking to them. In 1900, approximately 3,000 miners worked in the county. 1,000 of them were American-born whites, 1,000 were American-born black males, and 1,000 were European-born males. The miners were equally underground, but they were segregated residentially in their coal camps. So I really did think that was a really interesting piece of information from that news article from the Bluefield Daily Telegraph written in 1987 about, think about it, we're, 2024 or whatever, but 100 to 120 years ago working in the coal mines, a third of the coal miners were foreign born. It's just really interesting information for me. So I thought I would share. I'm glad I shared that a little bit of this article for you while we're driving around Loop Road here. So you've seen the dam, you've seen me coming back, and at the end of the Loop Road here, I'll be shutting this video off and to heading back through Bluefield, doing more filming of something else. But I'm glad you got to see the dam, and I was able to give you a little bit more information, some interesting information that I had found. So I'll stop talking now and let you just continue watching this video. But this is Angie from Tourangie.com. Come to my website, read my blogs, make appointments so I can help you plan your next travel adventure. Talk to you later.